Now, every year we try to come up with different arrangements. And so last year, our concert rally was twinned with our evening of music. So we decided to do a splitting of that because the evening of music is for a different purpose. And it is arranged differently. And so this year, our rally concert, as we are having it today, is one that is geared towards raising funds for, different projects and mission objectives in the church, different things. And for this year, our rally is named after former ministers. I don't know how many of you know how many ministers served this charge since 1846. That's quite a long time, right? Long before Mr. Noel was born. So that's a pretty long time. But when Reverend Ensley touched on the soil here in the Cayman Islands, and in particular in the Eastern District, he went about doing things in such a way that he never gave up. He was tired, he got ill, and all kinds of things happened. But nonetheless, he remained faithful. And this year, the United Church celebrates 171 come the 11th of September. 171. Last year was our 170th celebration of mission and ministry in these islands. And so 171 years, that's a pretty long time. I don't know how many of you will live to see that many years. You're hoping for 100, right? Oh, you mean add them all up? Okay, okay. And we know the numbers will go over, right? So before we have the introduction of our okay. Everybody knows who's the person who's going to cheer? Oh, shoot. It's on the program. I didn't know. I never planned that. No, you weren't to be told yet. But anyway, just before Reverend Alice Blair comes, just before we introduce her, I just wanted to go through some slides with you as an precursor to my introduction as she comes to lead us in this time as we do the in-gathering with the different teams. The former ministers, Megu, Longmore, and Williams. And so the church was divided into 3 different teams with members and adherents. And because of that, they have the way of looking at how they will explore different activities so as to meet their target. And so we're going to share briefly some of those slides. Marsha, you ready for me? Okay. Okay. That seemed like a ship sailing from somewhere. And that thing that is circled in red, that's supposed to be the Cayman Islands, and it's coming right. It touched down now. Let me see who is coming to the Cayman Islands. Okay. For a moment I thought no one coming. But Reverend Ensley, and 1846 through to 1863, that was his time of ministry in these islands. And the second minister to have served in this congregation, because he laid the foundation from West Bay right through to the Eastern Districts. And then Reverend William Whitecross, who joined him and shared between 1857 and 1863 and served alongside him as well. Just want this slide to go quickly. Oh, you're having technical difficulties? Okay. And the Reverend J.L. Martin, not much is known about him. It might be that the Ensley congregation has a lot of information about him, but he shared a very short time here in ministry, 1890 to 1891. But it is also said that he was serving at Ensley and he was asked to come over into the Bontown charge. And then the Bontown charge consisted of not 4 points, but 5 points, which included the Savannah congregation. Reverend Thomas B. Redpath, and he served, as you see the year, 1896 to 1909, and credited to his work is that he made a decision to move away from the mission house to where the manse, the church house, is now located on Manse Road. And so he did that, and the first manse to be built outside of the mission house, it was under his stewardship. Reverend William B. Pucci, anyone knows this man? You must know the rich history of this man. He's the first Caymanian minister trained and ordained. And then anybody knows the second one who was also ordained in the then Presbyterian Church? Reverend Harry came after. There were about, how many before you were Harry? Two? About two. Panton was before you? Okay. And Watler from Gunbay? Right? Yeah, so there were two before Reverend Harry and then Reverend Harry. So we have a lot of work to do as we celebrate 171. So Reverend Pucci, the congregation in Northside is named after him. And his family, members of his family still live in that area. Reverend John S. Wint, and this man served in 1916 to 1990. And he served a short stint in the history books when he left college, but then he came back after the Presbyterian Church decided to call him to the Bontown charge, and he served here for that time. Lived quite an old man. I mean, I think he was in his 90s when he passed on in the 80s. And Samuel Dawes, you can't talk about the history of the church as it was then and the church as it is now without the reference made to Samuel Dawes. And if you meet anyone on the streets and they name Dawes, it's because that man carried such a name and such an influence in the eastern districts when he was here. Reverend Edgar Waite, and he also served that time, 10 years roughly, and served us well during his tenure. Okay, George Ricketts, you remember him? Yes. Okay, giving you some history lesson today. Yes, 1946 to 1958, and I am taking note of the years that they served because I'm going to just go through a rough estimate as to who served the longest. Reverend Robert Longmore, and one of the teams is named after him, 1958 to 1962. The current manse, the structure as it is, although some changes were made with the structure, but the concrete structure credited to his stewardship while he was here as minister. Reverend Dr. Louis Williams, 1964 to 1969, they call him the no-nonsense pastor. He tells you as it is. Yeah. Oh, that's just another slide for him. Yeah. Reverend Jocelyn Angus, we still communicate. He lives in the States, 1969 to 1972. And he spent that length of time. Okay. And this is a household name. You'll hear more about him because a team is named after him. The first team that we'll be sharing their lead gathering. 1962 to 1964, and then again in 1974 to 1994. That's how much I have memorized them. So when Miss Marsha goes past, yes. And note the years, and Reverend Otto Menko, also a former minister, 1994 to 2009. Now, if you were to roughly say to yourself, who served the longest, which name would you come up with? You are a brilliant set of people. Yeah. And Reverend Peggo is actually here. Right. Strong and still going. In a special way, we want to welcome Reverend Peggo and Mrs. Peggo for sharing with us. And you'll listen more about what they have to say about you, right? You tell us if it's true, right? But our master of ceremonies for today is the Reverend Alice Blair, all the way from the east. And she's currently sharing in the ministry there at East End Gunbay congregations. And so, Reverend Alice Blair. Okay. How are you doing, ma'am?
Fine, sir.
You're here.
Here, sir. You doing, sir?
The chair.
Oh, you want to share, please?
Not that chair. As you know, she let us well last year. We decided that she would put in another request, and she said to me, "You're lucky." So,